100% physical.
Math was never our strong suit, but breaking down Ohio State football is. Sit back and join us for Buckeye Grove Instant Access, part of the Unscripted Ohio Podcast Network.
You can do it!
Brought to you by BuckeyeGrove.com. Post-game thoughts, immediate analysis, and much, much more to put the big game into perspective. Without any further delay of game, here's your host, Kevin Noon.
Kevin, goddammit.
Welcome to the BIA podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Noon. It is a Friday morning here in a chilly Columbus. Ran out and went to the store early this morning, and it was less than 50 degrees out there, so it's really feeling like football weather. The wait is almost over. We still have to wait one more week for the start of the college football season, but even with all of that, we're almost there. Just people have got to just cross that finish line. Lines have been released according to BetOnline AG for the Big Ten first week of the season. Ohio State 21.5-point favorite over Nebraska. You never know on these first lines if how they're going to ride. I've talked to some people who've expected it to be a little bit closer to 24. We'll see. And then, of course, once we get real lines next week, we'll see how the money moves the line, because it's not always a predictor. It's just a way to try and get money on both sides and see where things go. But I think at 21.5, Ohio State is I think Ohio State's going to see a lot of that action on their side, especially when we see how offenses are so much further ahead of defenses. And even on its best day, Nebraska's defense has not been very good for the last couple of years. I don't know. I don't see how Nebraska is able to slow down Ohio State all that much offensively. The real question is going to be, what will Nebraska be able to do on its offensive side of the ball? Adrian Martinez, Wan'Dale Robinson. These are all things that we're really going to start diving into next week. Once we get into a traditional game week, these podcasts are going to be full of a lot of X's and O's and that type of information, as well as recruiting. We got a big week of podcasts set up next week. I'm really looking forward to it. Monday, I'll still do kind of my recap podcast. I know we're going to be talking to Sean Callahan of Husker Online at some point next week to get a view of what's going on the Nebraska side of things. We'll talk to Joseph Hastings about the upcoming Buckeye Bash. We'll probably bring on Griffin Strom and just talk about the Ohio State-Nebraska matchup in general. And I'll see if I can even bring on somebody to do a little bit of a bigger picture about the Big Ten. We've not done a true Big Ten preview podcast yet. It's kind of a moving target. You just don't know what's going to be out there. We don't have the benefit of spring ball to really have an idea about some of these other teams. I mean, I've seen a lot of experts go out and make their Big Ten predictions, and quite honestly, I've not seen anybody outside of just the random outlier pick anybody other than Ohio State to win the East. I'm sure there are going to be a couple of people. It's just the nature of the beast. On the West, it's going to be a good mixture between Wisconsin, even though the Badgers took a bit of a hit with the surgery to Jack Cohn, bringing in Graham Mertz instead. What about Minnesota? They got some of their big weapons back who opted in. Could somebody else rise up? Could it be Nebraska? Week 1 opponent? I don't know. I have the Saturday lines in front of me for the Big Ten. I don't have the Wisconsin-Illinois. I believe that one was about 23.5, if I recall correctly. So let's not quibble over a point or a half point there if I'm off. Again, these are lines by BetOnline AG. As I said, Ohio State, 21.5-point favorite over Ohio State. Michigan State is an 11.5-point favorite over Rutgers. Two teams that are probably going to struggle mightily this year. Definitely the bottom two teams in the Big Ten East. Maybe the bottom two teams in the Big Ten. And if Michigan State is 11.5 points better than Rutgers, the Scarlet Knights and Greg Schiano have a major hill to climb. Major hill. I'll be really interested in that game. Not because I just want to really see each play or anything of that nature, but I just kind of want to see where those two teams stand next to one another, just to get an idea of where the power and where the lack of power lies within this conference. I think that Greg Schiano's really going to find that this is not going to be a situation of where he'll come in and be some sort of overnight savior and turn things around. I do think he is the right guy for the job. I think it takes a special hire there. It takes somebody who wants to be at Rutgers. This is not a stepping stone job in terms of you're going to go there and improve your stock and go on to another job. I mean, we saw that with Schiano. I mean, he ended up going to the NFL, and that was a pretty bad fit. He comes to Ohio State. He is all but mentioned to be the guy at Tennessee until people lose their mind and create reasons not for him to go there. And now he's at Rutgers. So, we'll see. And I'm curious about Michigan State as well. Mel Tucker taking over for Mark D'Antonio. These are all things we'll talk about next week, so I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole. Penn State, a 7-point favorite at Indiana. That could be a sneaky game. A lot of people are picking Indiana third in the East. I don't know where I have them. I don't know if I have Indiana third or if I have Michigan third. I really don't know. I need to see Joe Milton. I need to see more of him. The only play I ever remember seeing of Joe Milton is him throwing an interception against Ohio State. So, and I believe that was to Brendan White, if I remember right. So I'm not sure. If Indiana wins that game, that just upsets the balance of the Big Ten, at least behind Ohio State. So I don't know. Purdue, 2.5-point favorite. That one should be interesting. That's a real interesting game to me too. Jeff Brom seems to have the Boilermakers on the right path. Iowa, when you think they're going to be good, they're not as good. When you think they're going to be mediocre, they're probably a little better than you expect. I don't know. I don't have a good read on either of those teams. Michigan and Minnesota. The Wolverines, 2.5-point dog on the road. So, really put this on a neutral site. It's a pick 'em, more or less. But if Michigan starts out with a loss, those who are disenchanted with old Harbaugh up there are going to have a field day. And then lastly, you have Maryland and Northwestern. Northwestern, an 11-point favorite. I'm going to try and find something else to watch. I mean, that's on at the same time as the Michigan-Minnesota game. I'll be watching Michigan-Minnesota. If I didn't mention it earlier, this one's going to be kind of a quick show. I want to get everybody set for the weekend, a weekend of big football, and then we can all get on our way. On the flip side, I'm going to talk about some of the games that are coming up. We'll talk about those here after this quick break. Hague Water Conditioning has been treating well in city water in Central Ohio with American-made water filtration products for over 60 years. Have a water quality problem? The water treatment experts at Hague know how to solve it. Not sure if your water softener is working? They will test, inspect, and sanitize any brand of water softener for only $20. Schedule a system checkup or water test today by calling 614-836-2195 or visit them online at HagueH2O.com. That's HAGUE H2O.com. Welcome back to this abbreviated version of the BIA podcast, Buckeye Grove Instant Access. I'm your host, Kevin Noon. It is a Friday. Interesting week of games. Honestly, there's only one game that we're all talking about, and that's Alabama and Georgia. We'll get to that in a second. 5 games, as of the time of recording this podcast, have been postponed, including Florida and LSU. You also have Oklahoma State and Baylor, Cincinnati and Tulsa, Vandy and Missouri, and FIU and Charlotte. We're seeing news coming out of NFL facilities here and there that they're having to shut down, but we're also seeing situations of where there have been some false positives out there. It's really hard to get a grasp on what's going on here, but it does bring in the importance of teams have to do things right. And this isn't necessarily something to where if, a team comes down with an outbreak that they're doing things wrong necessarily, but they might be. I don't know. I'm not there. But the Big Ten has no wiggle room whatsoever if we keep the current calendar. But I have heard some whispers that if we do see college football take a significant hit in terms of cancellations and postponements, this isn't something just, catered to the Big Ten. This is across the board, that the CFP could slide a little bit. There are just too many dollars in play for them to be foolish about that. I think it's really important to get through November 7th, get the Pac-12 started, and then once everybody's playing, there's too much momentum to really say, well, we gave it our best effort. Thanks a lot. Goodbye. So let's get, we need to get there, but, be safe. Everybody be safe. I know everybody's got differing opinions on this whole situation. Sticking to sports. You don't care about my opinion. I really don't need to hear your opinion on it. We all got them. Just be safe. Segueing in, with the whole COVID situation, though, somebody who will not be participating this weekend will be Alabama head coach Nick Saban. And how mad do you think he is not to be able to coach against UGA? I guarantee you he's trying to find a way to be put in some sort of hospital ward there at Bryant-Denny Stadium, calling the game from the booth. Hell, we saw Joe Paterno call games from the booth when he was dealing with a broken leg. So, there's a little bit different. Broken leg is not infectious, to my knowledge. This Alabama-Georgia game is a huge game, 2 versus 3. We watched Alabama last week. They gave up a ton of points to Ole Miss. Did Lane Kiffin know what was coming? I mean, he'd been gone for a couple of years. I don't believe for a second he had the signals. And if you're stupid enough to have the same signals 5 years down the line or whatever it would be, you deserve to lose. But they didn't. They didn't lose. Just sounds like posturing and bullcrap to me. UGA on the other side, still not sold on their quarterback, on Bennett. How do you bench him, though? How do you pull him? He needs to string together about 2 bad quarters before you can do that. Alabama can make you string together 4 bad quarters, but I just don't think they have it on defense. But I don't think UGA has it on offense. So I think the UGA offense will look a little better than it probably is. But I think and the UGA defense is really good, but I think Alabama's offense is ridiculous. Not a big Mac Jones fan still, but he's done everything that's been asked of him. I mean, you look at his numbers, and it's like, well, Noon, why aren't you buying on Mac Jones? I'm not. But he's completing 79.5% of his passes, 8 touchdowns against a pick. He's thrown for 1,100 yards. It's been a good run at this point. But Alabama, they played Missouri, A&M. I'm going to give A&M some credit. And then this against Ole Miss, and he eviscerated Ole Miss. He eviscerated them. I mean, it was ridiculous. 28 of 32, 417, 4 incompletions in that game. And yes, Ole Miss can't play a lick of defense, like none. But I'm really looking forward to that game. That's your 8 o'clock game. So I lied when I said that I was going to watch that Michigan-Minnesota game. I'm going to be watching Alabama-Georgia. I may have the Big Ten game up on a laptop. Other games of note, Clemson at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech still has not figured things out at all. They're 2-2. Looked pretty good in their win against Louisville. Looked really bad against UCF. Looked really bad against Syracuse. Clemson's going to make them look worse. Speaking of Louisville, you got them playing Notre Dame. I like Notre Dame big in that one. I'm looking at ranked games here. You've got Auburn at South Carolina. Auburn shouldn't have won. They should send a big edible arrangement to the SEC offices. but South Carolina is not very good. Auburn's going to win that one. Kentucky at Tennessee. Not sold on Tennessee, and I think Kentucky's been a pretty hard luck team. That Auburn game, they were playing pretty well until they weren't. They lose by a point to Mississippi, and then they just completely manhandle Mississippi State 24-2. I like Kentucky in that game. I really do. I don't know why. Boston College and Virginia Tech, Texas A&M and Mississippi State. You know, it's a day that if you've got some errands to run during the morning, not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. Yes, you won't be able to watch Clemson put Georgia Tech out early. You may miss that Pitt-Miami game. But that 12 o'clock window isn't very exciting to me. Then again, that 3:30 window, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what I would want to watch in that window. I mean, those of you who know me know my wife went to Ole Miss, so I might have to watch Ole Miss at Arkansas against my will. That A&M Mississippi State game's at 4. But really, the night window, and I lied. I mean, I've got about something a minute ago. I guess I'm so excited about the start of the Big Ten season. I started them this week and said I was going to watch that Minnesota-Michigan game. So I apologize about that, but I did catch my error. I don't have to worry about that until next week. So Alabama and Georgia will get about 100% of my attention. That North Carolina-Florida State game on ABC, I'll look at it periodically. But now this has me wondering what else is on the schedule for Week 8 up against the Big Ten. And I'm just going to do a quick look here with you guys. Alabama, Tennessee. But if Tennessee falls, they're not going to be ranked, so that's not that exciting. Iowa State, Oklahoma State is a rank versus rank game. Cincinnati, SMU is another rank versus rank game. So it seems like the stage will be pretty clear for the Big Ten when they come back next week. But, you know, what are your thoughts on this Georgia-Alabama game? I'd love to hear about them. Why don't you shoot me a note at kevin@buckeyegrove.com and let me know what your thoughts are. And maybe on Monday, if I get a couple of replies, I'll read them on the air. But, you know, I'm going to call this one a quick show here, and I can't wait until next week. I can't wait until we are really talking about the Big Ten season being game week. Everything's going to be there. You know, we'll be doing Tail of the Tape, Hot 11, all that good stuff. We'll have a lot of guests on. Real exciting times. But I want to thank you for listening today. I'm your host, Kevin Noon. This is the BIA podcast, and why don't you go out there and have a wonderful and safe weekend.
Be sure to stay up to date with Buckeye Grove Instant Access when the news breaks or after the big game. Exclusively at BuckeyeGrove.com or anytime on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher as part of the Unscripted Ohio Podcasts Network. Hit that subscribe button so you can stay in the know and never miss a single episode.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to click on that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing, and come visit us over at BuckeyeGrove.com for all the best Ohio State information on the web.